Hi, I'm Andy Pogue. I'm the minister at Spencer Hill Church of Christ. I'm home today because of the virus scare and my regular job. We're taking some time off, and I wanted to take this opportunity to share a few things with you. I wanted to say specifically that God can be in the disturbances and the interruptions in our lives, and I wanted us to think about that. Sometimes interruptions don't go well. We don't like that when our plans are interrupted. But I think we can see from the scriptures that there are times that God can even use those interruptions. And I want us to look at a few of those today. First of all, we could look at Mark chapter 2, verses 1 through 12. And there Jesus is in a home, he's speaking, and there's a great crowd, and they can't get anybody in, but there are four men who have a friend who can't walk. And you know that story. It's very familiar that they can't get in the house, so they climb up on the roof and they let this man down. They take the roof apart and they let him down right down to Jesus, interrupting his sermon. And I know there have been times that things have happened when I've been preaching. It's hard to get back on message. It's hard to get the crowd's attention again. But Jesus here uses that opportunity to heal this man. You know what I find really interesting is that we don't know what Jesus was preaching about. We don't know what his sermon was. That's not recorded for us, but the interruption is. And what a great story. We know that Jesus loves everyone, and he could take time for this man to heal him, to say, take up your bed, walk. What a great story. There's another time recorded in Luke chapter 7 that Jesus is at a Pharisee's home, and we're told that the Pharisee's name was Simon. And again, there's a meal going on, and Jesus is the guest of honor, and he is the center of attention, and he's talking to these other Pharisees in this home, and there's a crowd probably there to observe, and a woman comes forward. The Bible just simply says that she was a sinner, but she takes an alabaster box, something very valuable, and pours some ointment on Jesus. A lovely way to worship him. Notice again that nowhere is recorded what Jesus was telling these Pharisees. Obviously, there were things that he needed for them to know, but those things are not recorded for us. But the interruption is recorded for us. We know about that. Go a little bit further in Luke chapter 8, beginning down about verse 40 rather, and through 56. And there's a story that's as fresh as today's headlines. There's a man, a ruler of the synagogue, and he has a 12-year-old daughter, and she's sick. And as a parent, you know how disturbing that can be to think that your child is sick, and obviously very sick, because as the story progresses, she dies. And this man comes to Jesus. He's desperate, and he says, Jesus, you need to do something. Can you come to my house? And Jesus begins to make his way. But there's an interruption. And in that interruption, we see, I think, Jesus' care and concern. There's a woman. The Bible tells us that she's had an issue of blood for many years, and she spent all that she has to try to cure this. Doctors were unable to cure her. And yet she thought, if I could just touch the hem of the garment of Jesus, I could be healed. And Jesus turns around. He's making his way to the ruler's home to heal this girl. They're in a rush. I'm sure that the ruler is trying to hurry Jesus along, but he takes the time to turn and to look at this woman who would have been a social outcast. And he says, who touched me? And she comes forward. And Jesus healed her. He cared about her. Yes, he cared about the young girl that was dying, but he cared about this woman. I find some comfort in that. And ultimately, the girl dies. Jesus raises her from the dead. It's one of the great miracles recorded in the Bible for us. But can you imagine the increasing tension of this story? And yet Jesus uses the interruption to do a wonderful thing, and it's recorded for us. So then there's your story. Do the disruptions in your life, do they have to be frustrating? What if we began to view the interruptions in our lives as possibly being God's providential work in our lives? That God is somehow or another using things together so that it works out for our good. What if the interruptions to our lives and our schedules are actually God's schedules being demonstrated? Let me tell you some good things I know that are already happening since this virus of 2020 has begun. I know there are parents and children who are spending more time together. And sometimes you hear people complain about that, but I see some great things that are happening. Mamas and daddies are home together with their children, and maybe they're able to interact in ways that they have not been doing for a long time. And I like that. I like seeing that. We have become increasingly busy in our lives and our schedules with school and work and ball and all the extracurricular activities that take up our time. And so often we pass each other in the driveway and we don't have time to sit down and eat together. But now all of those things are canceled and restaurants are closed. And so people are actually eating together. I think of Psalm 46:10 that says, "Be still and know that I am God." Sometimes we just need to slow down in the busy times of our lives to see God working. Another thing that I see is some are using this time to study more than they ever have. Personal study, reading the Bible more. They have more time for that. But also study again as a family or couple to be able to use that time together. And another thing that I hope we'll see as a benefit of this time off is that when we do get together again and worship, maybe we'll see that in a new light. Maybe we'll see that in a way that we have not. You know, someone has said we don't miss the water until the well runs dry. And so maybe Bible study and worship and time together that we'll have will mean more to us than it ever did before. Romans 8:28 is a verse that many of us love. It says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose." God can use even the bad things in life for good if we allow that. So rather than allowing the disruptions to frustrate you, why not change your perspective and look for God even in the interruptions? And who knows what meaning this will give to our lives and what good we can accomplish for others. I look forward to seeing you face to face, and I hope to do that very soon. Pray for God to heal our nation. Pray for God to keep us close together. Pray for God's wisdom and guidance. Thank you